It will be a bit more theoretical comparing to my previous colleague. But in the end, you will have some cookie which probably will satisfy your interest in cybersecurity and applied stuff. The presentation is the result of the consulting project which I did at the École des Ponts Business School, and the research paper which was developed in cooperation with another researcher, Ms. Kornietz. I would like to start with the introduction to the phenomena which the humanity facing during the last decade, which started by the digital uprising. So it is the fourth industrial revolution. And how the founder of the World Economic Forum, the Klaus Schwab, defined this phenomena, it is just a bit wider, but it is much more wider than the typical understanding of the technological development, because it touched the different domains of the human activity and social life and the technologies. And the fusion between the social activities of the human being and the fusion of the different technologies in a biological and a technological domain, the Internet of Everything, makes this industrial evolution totally different comparing to the previous one, which was the just industrial one. But the development of this phenomena has the two limiting factors: the knowledge and the leadership. So as this process goes not in a scientific field or in some industries, it touched everyone through the new forms of communication, the new forms of governance, the new forms of the human argumentation. Society needs the development of new tools for leadership to lead in this process. We also need the knowledge about this phenomena to be able to harness the process, as the development of the fourth industrial revolution has a lot of brings a lot of disruption in all domains. Everybody at the moment speak about the disruption of the jobs, disruption of the business, how the robotization will increase the unemployment rate in highly industrialized states. Yes, but there is also such threats as the ethics, when some portion of the people will go on basic income. Actually, how you will engage and enroll these people back to the society, and this threat cannot be done just by the business or just by the conventional understanding of the government which we have at the moment. And the institutional framework of the corporate and the public governance are to be invented to diminish the disruption of the future business and social challenges on the national and the global domain. So it is just to be developed at the moment, and there is no clear answer at the moment. But such models of the governments as the multi-stakeholder governments or the different forms which are cultivated inside the internet governance societies might be very useful in the future, as this prototype might be efficient in the future through the different advantages of this. And just to shape the challenges and the trends which the fourth industrial revolution is giving us in the future, so they will arise in three main domains. It's a physical, digital, and a biological. The physical domain means the development firstly in the operation and the production. It's like a robotization, AI managed unmanned vehicles and other stuff. The digital, it's the power of the platform. First of all, it's a disruption for the margins for the most of the typical businesses, as the digital platform, as the marketplace will actually destroy the high margin industries, and in most cases the business can go from B2B to B2C, and we have the first cases when the typical industries go to the C to C models with almost no commission. This will increase threats for unemployment, and it forces the conventional business and corporation to invent new business model to keep it going, because it will they will can just go bankrupt. And the biological megatrends, most researchers do not speak about that, but actually such technology as the humor argumentation, for example, might challenge our conventional understanding of the education, as would it be ethical to have the student which has installed some brain hacking software just to boost the memory, and will this will employee with such possibilities should be valued in the same way as the regular one, and is it still a human being? The second one. It's the second question. So this mega trends goes to the main areas of the mega changes which the fourth industrial revolution give us. So the disruption of jobs and skills, yes, it's mostly about the robotization and implementation of the artificial intelligence and robotics. The most of these aspects are already described, and it is obvious that shift in business models change employment landscape. But on this point, I would like to invite you to read about the circular economy and the circular economy business model. Some examples of the circular economy business model is you might already know. It's like the car as a service. So how the business model actually then can influence the way of car being produced and affect the automotive industry, as most of us as the drivers sometimes question why actually the engine or the brake of the car fail, as almost like 50 years ago, the Mercedes-Benz could run 1 million kilometers without any engine or transmission fail, because it was designed not to fail. The car producer are not actually making money on the selling the cars. So the 30% of the German automotive industry goes from the financial services. So they're just interested in leasing the cars and giving the loans on them and insuring and selling the insurance on the car. Then the other part, about like 60% of the net margin of the automotive concern goes from the selling spare parts for the cars and the services, which are highly overpriced. So this is the core answer to this, why they make cars to fail, because they make money selling the spare parts. And But they start testing the business model when they are given a car by subscription, so you are paying 1 or 2K euro per month, and you have a newly shaped and a car on the model line which you wish. And you can actually change the color of your car and interior once a month. In such way, the automotive industry are not interested to making car to fail. They're interested to make it run without any problems on the service. They will service the car with a different type of oil and the different types of the spare parts. And they are not interested in outsourcing the car production to the third market. So this explains that's why most of the European and North American producers, they started doing this also in a software domain. They went from outsourcing to insourcing. So they closed R&D department and outsourcing department on a software development and also the production spare parts, and moving back to Europe and North America. And insourcing caused the job disruption at the emerging markets. The new business model as a car by subscription disrupt the jobs in the production industry, also in the emerging markets in Europe, because the producer will not need to produce cars so much. It is just possible to make it not to fail. Then, so it is like was just an example how the business model can actually cause so many links of connection, and the way how the car can be designed. Then the agile governance, I would like to stress on this, and actually it was quite interesting question by our colleague from Google. So when you will set up the rule, and when you will shut down the rule, yeah. So it's a nice question. Then the question is, who will be responsible for setup in the rule and shut down the rule? Who will take the legal responsibility of not doing that? Who will actually create the governance body to set up the rule, and when this rule should be modified? It is okay when it is inside one ecosystem and like one internet exchange, but when you need to have the cooperation with a different internet exchange or even different corporation, and who will take the legal responsibility and who will be in charge in each of this. So, and such examples are arising each moment. The governments, the conventional governments suffer because of this, because of high influence of the net flow from the social network and possibilities to communicate between the people cause challenges for the conventional governments, and they don't know how to work in such environment. That is why the agile way of the governance is quite important when the government body have the connected communication model with the constituency and the foreign and the external environment to mitigate the risk of rules might fail. And it should be done in a totally different way. So we just have the rise of the petition, and then there is the opposite stuff when somebody is using their technologies which might disrupt this process and actually show that it doesn't work. And so the fusion technologies, it's having the different in one thing. It's like having the bionic bot which make an ethical or unethical decision to hit the target or not to hit the target. So it might be the online bot which operates in a digital environment, or it might be a bot which operates on the field. So that's why we actually have the new understanding of the threats and the conflicts, because the conventional wars which happened during the last 5 years, it's not just a war on the land or sea or space. It also happened in cyberspace, and it is led by the different hybrid combination of the information technologies which are used to hit the critical infrastructure, to hit the radio station, to hit the telecommunication service provider, or spread the fake news or the propaganda. I would like to also to make the disclaimer at this moment that the expressions which you will see in my presentation, it doesn't reflect my personal views or the institution with which I might be engaged. So it's just a fact. So if it happened, so it happened and it is reflected in the presentation. If something is written in some sort of the legal or official document, yes, it is there, and I would like to abstain not to comment my personal understanding. So you will understand probably. Yeah. So now we back to the cybersecurity. So according to the Marshall Center, 97.5% of the cybersecurity threats actually goes from the human. So we are actually the problem. I was quite impressed by this figure, and on this point I started learning about the cybersecurity more and more, because I saw that yes, the software actually solving most of the cases. No, software in most cases do not fail. The human being failed. The human who can find the USB flash card and plug to the computer at the nuclear plant at one of the Asian countries actually destroyed the process of development of the nuclear cells for the nuclear weapon. And it happened. And some person did that. So, and this is our my personal understanding that 99.9% of the threats to informational security are caused by human. Yeah. So we are living at the point when actually the informational system and computers do not generate the informational flow in an artificial way. So humans are doing that. And then we are going to the understanding with the cybersecurity and informational security. So there is a two way of understanding these two notions in a world. There is a NATO and European-like understanding, and there is an understanding which goes from Russia, China, and some other states. The informational security are being used at the Western world mostly as the securing information inside the information systems. The understanding which goes from Russia, like in China, other countries, so it is more about securing informational flows into the country, and it includes the media, the cybersecurity. So it is like a cultural domain, it is economic domain, it is the cyberspace as well. And this understanding gives the explanation how the state they govern the issue. So then I would like to shift to Ukrainian case that we've developed something in response to the countries which were quite active inside the Ukrainian cyberspace informational space, media, culture, language, and all of the stuff. So the policy update in Ukraine on informational security was as a response to the active action of the neighboring state. To my understanding, it was logical, but maybe it should be done also not only in a responsive, but also in a proactive model, because when the political environment might change, we will have the different situation, and we will need to update the doctrine. So, we have the information security of the doctrine as the counteraction, and with the similar measures to the Russian one. So it is stated that we are in a state of the hybrid war. It is written in that document. Yeah, it also, I underlined some quite important things. Maybe if you have the people from the Internet Society chapters, they might have the heart attack, because we have the legal mechanism searching, estimating, blocking, deleting from information space of the state. So information space actually include not only the internet and the cyberspace. So when you have something wrong in article or book, you need to remove it. I don't know how actually to do that, but it is stated there in response to the similar doctrine in the neighboring state. But in the same time, it includes a quite important element as the development of the cooperation mechanism with the civil society to combat informational aggression, disinformation, and the propaganda. So the informational security doctrine gives the answer why actually we should do that with the cooperation with the civil society, just to stop, to mitigate the effect of the propaganda and all other forms of that. I also did the 5 forces analysis on of the cyber competitiveness of the Ukraine. As on this picture, we see the different elements which describe the influence of the different actors engaged. So we have very high rivalry. So the rivalry means it's interaction between the different bodies which engage in a cybersecurity field, because we have the state bodies, there is a private actors, there is a media, there is a civil society. And building the cooperation between them, it is quite important, as they are quite competitive to each other, and actually the whole system might fail if they don't have some sort of the balanced multi-stakeholder for better understanding what to do. And there is also very high power of the suppliers. This is the corporation which is supplying the cybersecurity tools. And having them on the board is quite important, as they might not transfer knowledge or technologies. Yeah, now we are in Georgia. Georgia did the cybersecurity policy a bit different, as they followed the conventional NATO European approach. So firstly, they implemented the law on informational security, so it is law on cybersecurity in the understanding which I explained above, because they mostly deal with the critical infrastructure in informational systems. It is not dealing with propaganda and all other stuff. And they developed the cybersecurity strategy and changed them in a couple of ways. So firstly, they built the framework of cooperation, then it was done the practical measures. Yeah, so this is it, the key objectives. So it is an integral part of the national security, and the cooperation between the different government state bodies are vital for this. So this is like the culmination of my presentation. So this is the definition of the information security which we are suggesting. So we suppose to understand the information security as the state government action of the information flow into social consciousness for safeguarding national citizens and residents from weaponized influence from internal or external threats in the form of propaganda, disinformation, violent ideologies, aggressive and disruptive phenomena. So what is the, 1 minute. Yeah, so what is the hybrid threat? So hybrid threats, it's a used notion by the NATO and the European Union. So they understand is as a different combination of the influence to the informational system and different forms of the cyber attack. So the definition is here. And so what are the types of hybrid threats on cyber and information security? So this is a bit wider. So it goes with cyber sabotage and espionage. It is the cyber leverage of the diplomacy. It is different forms of the retaliation of the cyber attacks. It's the development of cyber warfare and weapon and the propaganda. So it is wider picture. Yeah, so as a conclusion, I would like to give the notion of the black swan, which is narrated by the Nassim Taleb. So we are seeing such uprising of the different phenomena which giving us a signal to the future. And the way we see these challenges, this cause the portion how we will manage to overcome the threats and the disruption for the future which will bring us. Thank you for having me today. It was honor for me. I will upload the presentation to the website, and you will see in the annex the state and non-state biggest cybersecurity attacks which we had in the last couple of years. So it might.
I think it's already the case. Actually,
yeah.
Your presentation is already on the ENOG website.
Yeah.
Yes, questions, please.
Thank you. Grigoris again, Armenia Internet Society. Let me ask you, could you please describe the difference between Russians' Chinese approach on cyber information security and the Ukrainian approach? As I understand, it's the same vision.
Yes, so Ukraine decided to have the responsive policy which had the similar understanding. In the same way, the state government and the state influence on a securing information space in Ukraine is lower comparing to Russia and China. But yes, the policy looks similar. And so and there is a lot of different cases. For example, like a couple 100 years ago, there was a Russian Empire and the Ottoman Empire. So they had the very similar military system and recruiting troops as they were fighting, and they need to have something, similar. But it doesn't mean that this is the most effective way. It just probably the answer that we didn't invent something more modern. And but to my mind, we are on the edge of inventing and such innovation comparing to the NATO and West, as they are not facing such challenges as we do.
Any more questions? Actually, I got a quick question. Is this talk a part of your research work at École des Ponts, or it's your personal work?
Yeah. So I stated that the first part on the Fourth Industrial Revolution is the result of the consulting project. The second part of the presentation, it is personal research work.
Thank you.